Picking out those spicy hidden gem picks is not always an easy task, but thankfully I love doing it. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and today I will share with you my top 10 differential picks for the new FPL season. Let's get going. Before we get started, I just wanted to apologize for not uploading on this channel for a couple of days. It is because we have had a hidden project going on behind the scenes. Yes, I am, of course, talking about the new Stick to FPL podcast, which launched just yesterday. Let's run a quick clip from the podcast. Welcome back to Stick to FPL. Coming up on today's show. Or not?
I can't stand the guy.
What?
I can't stand him.
Is this a personal issue?
No, this is not personal. He's a beautiful guy. He plays for a team that I like. I just can't stand the guy.
That is an annoyingly good point. Yeah. Of course, I'm keeping this on down.
Okay.
Yeah, this is conspiracy theory. So, I think that the podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everything you want. So go check it out using the link tree at the top of the description and watch/listen your way. I hope you guys enjoy. Please show some support there. Okay, now time for the main feature. We are talking about differentials, hidden gems, whatever you want to call them. We are all about them here. And before we go into our top 10 list, I wanted to first share with you some, I guess, honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top 10 for me. There's some really nice ones in here. First of all, Morgan Gibbs-White at 6.6% ownership. Not too many people are selecting him, but I think he could do really well for this Nottingham Forest team that has some great fixtures coming up. Robertson at 6 million could be pretty decent if he starts. Not too many people picking Pope either at Newcastle. If you're looking for a slightly different goalkeeper and a new nailed-on way into that Newcastle defense, then Pope could be your answer. He's done really, really well historically. Unfortunately, did suffer with some injury problems last season. Dunk at 4.5 million and 4.4% selected is a pretty decent pick from that Brighton defense. Adam Armstrong from Southampton tore up the championship last season. Can he do it again this year? Davis of Ipswich, another newly promoted asset, was an assist machine, assisting pretty much every goal Ipswich scored last season. Can he do it again this year and maybe throw in a clean sheet or two? I guess that remains to be seen. Jeremy Doku is an interesting Manchester City differential if you are happy to take a risk on his minutes, but we know how much he dominates in those easier fixtures for Man City where he often starts, so maybe he is going to play during Man City's easy run at the beginning of the season after that game week 1 fixture against Chelsea. Cunha at Wolves did very well last season as well. Brennan Johnson is a player a lot of people are talking about, and hopefully he can nail down that right wing position for Spurs, because every time he plays he looks fantastic for the club. Semenyo as well at 5.5 million is a real nice bargain. Just 1.3% of FPL managers selecting him at time of recording. Ben Mee, 1.2% selected, another cheap defender you could potentially go for. Brentford, not great defensively last season, but they had pretty much their entire back line missing for a lot of the season. Now that they are back in fitness coming into the new season, hopefully Brentford can get back to keeping regular clean sheets. And Levi Colwill, just 1.1% selected. The Chelsea defender looks perfect for the new Maresca system as the left centre-back. We know the potential this player has. We know the skill that he has. If he can remain injury-free, he's going to be a really nice pick and a cheap way into that Chelsea defense as well. But with those players out the way, let's talk about the main events. Let's go through the top 10, starting with number 10. So my number 10 is Anthony Robinson. We are going to be going through these differentials from the most selected all the way down to the final number 1 pick, which is a player with under 1% selected. Very, very few people going for the number 1 pick, but he is a serious hidden gem. We're going to start with number 10, 5.2 selected, Robinson, a 4.5 million defender who plays for Fulham, and last season he played pretty much every single game. 37 out of 38 starts for the Cottagers. Is that what they're called? I think it is, because they play at Craven Cottage. But guys, he did pretty well, generally speaking. We saw a lot of assists from him last season, and looking through his numbers, the clean sheet stats aren't too bad either, with Fulham expected to keep a clean sheet 1 in 4 games going by last season's numbers. And I know that doesn't sound great, but actually looking through the table of the defenses in the league last year, that's actually one of the better results there. We've got some great fixtures coming up for Fulham as well. After Manchester United, we see 2 newly promoted games for Fulham, Leicester and Ipswich back-to-back, followed by a home game against West Ham. If Fulham can continue to keep semi-regular clean sheets and Anthony Robinson can add some more assists to his tally from last season, this could be a really, really nice pick indeed. Morgan Rogers was a new signing for Aston Villa during last season, but towards the end, he saw some real promise and got some game time for Aston Villa. Looked really good at the end of the season, and judging by the pre-season for Aston Villa, looks like he could be one of their stars as well. Now, I don't want to put too much emphasis on pre-season games, and I think it is worth noting that he did finish last season very well as well, with 0.38 goals per start and 0.12 assists per start as well. So, every time he started, 1 in 2 games, he would get an attacking return of some kind, which is actually very, very impressive. Now, can he find himself nailed on in this Aston Villa team? That remains to be seen. But at 5 million, that is a really, really nice price, and you won't find better value for money at that price point if you're looking for those cheap midfielders. So, particularly if you are making a team with both Haaland and Salah in, and you find yourself with not too much spare cash, maybe Morgan Rogers is the answer to that, and a differential too at 5.2% selected. West Ham and Leicester are 2 fixtures in the opening 3, which could provide a few point opportunities. Muniz became an absolute legend in the second half of last season, guys. He was scoring for fun. It did dry up a little bit towards the end of the season, but certainly from January, this guy was an absolute legend. He's had a price hike now to 6 million. He should be the main starting forward for Fulham for the new season, and how can you be surprised? 0.5 goals per game, 0.11 assists per game. He's looking to get an attacking return more than every other game, and particularly in these slightly easier fixtures. We spoke about Fulham's fixtures already. Man United, Leicester, Ipswich, West Ham. These are phenomenal fixtures for Fulham to try and get some goals in. And if they do get goals, Muniz is going to be a huge part of that. So really, really promising asset. And at 6 million, that is a nice price tag for him. 4.7% of FPL managers currently brave enough to go for him. But do not be afraid of the fact we've only seen 6 months of him, because we've definitely seen enough to suggest that he is going to be great for another season. Young guy, loads of potential, great fixtures. Let's go. From Muniz to Munoz. Please do not get confused between these 2 players. One is an attacking South American player who burst onto the scene during the second half of last season, and the other one is an attacking South American player who burst onto the scene in the second half of last season. Okay, there are some similarities there, don't get me wrong, but Munoz is of course a 5 million defender who plays for Crystal Palace, and I say defender, what I really mean is he's listed as a defender within the game of FPL, because playing in that right wing back position for Palace, he has looked really, really good under Glasner, going forward so far, playing in the box, playing as a right winger, striker almost at times, looked absolutely phenomenal. That's kind of backed up by the fact that he's taking a shot every other game. He is looking to make key passes every game as well. So really, really attacking player. And that's what we like in our defenders within the game of FPL. His clean sheet was, a record was pretty good as well. 31% of games saw a clean sheet for Crystal Palace whilst Munoz was on the field. So can that continue during a nice spell in the new season? Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea and Leicester are the opening 4 fixtures, and I definitely think Munoz can capitalise on that. I know a lot of people are going for the slightly cheaper Anderson, but if you want to get one of those players who has a much higher ceiling, much more potential to go nuclear with those points, then spend that extra money. Daniel Munoz is a great pick, and with a great first name as well. Always like the name Daniel, don't know why. And by the way, guys, I would love to hear from you. Who is your top differential for your FPL team this season? I'd love to see some different suggestions to see what you guys can come up with. Can you come up with anything even better than my ones? I bet you can. There's your challenge. Like and subscribe. Let's get moving. Coming from Jamaica, it's Leon Bailey, 6.5 million midfielder, selected by just 4% of FPL managers. And for me, this could be one of the best 6.5 million midfielders available to us. I know a lot of people may be looking at Nkunku, but I think Bailey could be just as good, particularly if you are not looking to go for Ollie Watkins in your draft and you want to have some Aston Villa coverage. Now, Bailey didn't always start last season, but I think at this point has played himself into being a regular starter for Aston Villa, which is great because every time he starts, he seems to perform. 0.64 returns per start last season. So he is getting returns, FPL returns, 2 out of 3 games when he starts. That is phenomenal. 5 points per game week on average when he was starting the games. Really, really nice numbers here. And he comes in just 4% selected. People are not taking a chance on the Jamaican man, but I think you should. I think this is actually a really, really good opportunity at that 6.5 million price tag. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of options around that price tag, but Leon Bailey is definitely top 3 6.5s for me in the midfield. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've got Wood in my differentials video today. Yes, at number 5, Chris Wood, 3.5% selected. That is really low. And when we look at those 6 million forwards, we've got Muniz, we've got Wood as well. And I think both of those players are really good options. Now, Wood, another player, whenever he started, and in the second half of the season, he was starting every single game, he got really good points. 5.7 points per game week on average last season when he started. This is incredible. 0.65 goals per start, 0.05 assists per start as well. Taking multiple shots, getting plenty of big chances as well, and grabbing a decent amount of bonus points. And guess what? Nottingham Forest start the season with some very favourable fixtures. Bournemouth at home, Southampton away, and Wolves at home. These 3 present some phenomenal opportunities for Wood to continue his form from last season. Now, a few people might be a little concerned that maybe Awani comes in and becomes the central striker once again, but there really is no need for that to happen because Wood's form was so good last season. Second half of the season, he became that main trusted man. And from what I've seen in preseason, he is being trusted and he's doing pretty well there as well. So really, really like this pick. And in fact, he's found himself in a few of my drafts recently as well. So yes, like this one a lot. Now, last season under De Zerbi, Brighton rotated their goalkeepers for some reason, but going into the new season under a new manager, it is expected that Verbruggen is going to be the main man between the sticks. And at 4.5 million, I think that's a really, really good opportunity to have a nice, cheap goalkeeper. I think some people have looked at other cheap goalkeepers, but with Chelsea and Crystal Palace's goalkeeper situation kind of up in the air a little bit, we don't know who's going to be in net. Verbruggen actually, to me, looks like possibly the best 4.5 million goalkeeper to go for right now. Of course, we'll see later on as the game weeks progress if that turns out to be true. But certainly Verbruggen is obviously a top quality goalkeeper, a Netherlands international. We saw him starting all of the games during the Euros, so that's got to say something about him. And Brighton, a little unfortunate with injuries and playing loads of European games as well last year, which did really damage them in the Premier League. But under a new manager with less games to play and many players coming back from injury, this could be a brand new start for Brighton, where they'll have more opportunities to keep clean sheets once again. Everton is the opening fixture, which of course is pretty good. Manchester United and Arsenal in 2 and 3, maybe not so good, but from game week 4, the fixtures look great again for Brighton. Of course, remember, a goalkeeper is a long-term pick, so you don't always need to look too closely at the fixtures, as long as they have a decent opening, maybe 8 fixtures to 10 fixtures, just to cover you until you play your first wild card. I think you're pretty good to go. So, Verbruggen, 3.4% ownership, should be more. He's a decent 4.5 goalkeeper indeed. Going into those podium spots, Diogo Jota at 3.3% selected makes the list as well. Yes, we know about this guy at this point. What a player. He is one of those guys that whenever he is fit, you must pick him for your FPL team because he is so good. The problems is always around fitness and injuries. But right now, at least for the time of recording, he is fit. He is available. And looking at the Liverpool team, he would make Liverpool's best 11. I think we all agree with that one. I think what we might not agree on is whether we want to take a risk on a player that could get injured fairly shortly. And also, maybe there is going to be some rotation under the new manager. We don't quite know how Arne Slot is going to set up his Liverpool team. But Jota's got to be in the conversation. He is too good to ignore. Looking through these numbers, guys, it's even better than Wood. Per start, 6.21 points. That is just insane. Goals 0.57 per start, assists 0.29 per start. This is a guy who just bangs in those returns whenever he is on the football pitch and isn't even too bad off the bench either. So definitely someone we should be having a look at with Liverpool with these incredible fixtures. But of course with Jota, there is some risk there because of his injury issues, because we don't know how Arne Slot is going to set up his team. If you are a kind of FPL manager who is happy to take a risk, the ceiling here is very, very high. From Liverpool to Liverpool. I hope you're hungry because we're talking about Szoboszlai. Now, this is a guy who might find himself in a new role in the new Arne Slot system. In fact, he is expected to play behind the striker as an attacking midfielder. Of course, we don't know this for a fact, and that is reflected by his 1.6% kind of selected by status at this moment. I think people are a little bit unsure about him, particularly when you consider last season, his numbers were not particularly good. But guys, do not be afraid. If you want to take a risk and you are confident that Szoboszlai will take up that attacking midfield role in the new Liverpool system, well, that could be pretty good. Imagine being the creator behind some of the best attackers in the league. That could be a recipe for assists, and we know that Szoboszlai likes to take a shot as well, as backed up by his numbers, taking over 2 shots per game. Not too bad for a 6.5 million midfielder, is it really? So, if you fancy it, go for it. Liverpool have great fixtures. I think this guy is going to be playing a decent amount of games, so I think it is a risk that could be worth taking. Which takes us to number 1, and that is going to be Tino Livramento. 4.5 million Newcastle defender at 0.9% selected. A massively overlooked and ignored FPL asset. And maybe that's for a good reason. And maybe he is a wait and see until closer to the Gameweek 1 deadline. But this is a player I really have my eye on, because what we've seen recently is Trippier is rumoured to be leaving the club. And if Trippier leaves, who is going to be the new right back? It's going to be Livramento. We already saw him kind of tested last season, playing a decent amount of games, but mostly playing second fiddle, playing from the bench. But at the same time, we know about this player. He is a pretty attacking right back who can also play in the left back position, deputising for, I don't know, Burn, Kelly, Hall, whoever you think is going to play at left back for Newcastle, because it seems to be a bit of a mystery. But he would be the standout right back for the club if Trippier were to leave, and that is heavily rumoured at this point. If you do want to go for a 4.5 million Newcastle defender, he will be the guy to go for, without a shadow of a doubt, and the best way into the Newcastle defence for their decent fixtures against the likes of Southampton, Bournemouth and Wolves in the opening 4. But we need to wait for Trippier. A little bit more news on Trippier leaving the club first, and that's why he is as low as 0.9% selected. But keep your eyes on this man. He could be the pick. I've seen a lot of things, and I have high hopes for this one. But first, Trippier. Leave Trippier, leave the Premier League so we can have this beautiful differential in our team. That's all I really want. That's all I really care about. Tino Livramento in my FPL squad. And there we have it, guys. There's my top 10 differentials. And don't forget to let me know who yours are as well. I would love to hear some different suggestions from you guys. But thanks so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.